Up, good people? Mark Holmes here. As always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Blue Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope everybody's having a great day. Cowboys, they're not sitting back, okay? They've actually making some moves and stuff right now. We know Jair Alexander got signed by the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens that are trying to build a juggernaut team, they signed DeAndre Hopkins. Now they got Jair Alexander. They're putting in some work. The Cowboys, though, we've done a couple of cuts here. Cornerback. Okay, I can't remember. I can't remember. Shit, Luke. LAQ, DeBarco. Okay, I can't remember his names. Forgive me. But surprisingly, where we're lacking on defensive tackles, they let go defensive tackle Justin Rogers. So he has been moved on too, which is kind of surprised because thinking that defensive tackle is one of those areas that we actually need some more help. The question is, do we have some other moves to correspond with that? Are we getting rid of those guys so we can sign some others? That's a possibility. I wish both of those guys the best of luck going forward. And I'm hoping that the Cowboys are looking at signing some other help or something is going on. And still, nothing new on the Micah Parsons contract situation. Did we expect it? No, of course not. Nothing will happen until training camp. And, nothing will happen until training camp. There's some other guys that may be not far behind. I'm going to say one of the guys that they signed, Paris Campbell. We heard a lot of good things at training camp about how good Jalen Tolbert's been looking. Of course, George Pickens and things. Paris Campbell, who was thought to be the deep threat, who didn't seem to get much of an opportunity with the Eagles with the loaded roster. Of course, the Cowboys, gave him an opportunity, but we've got too many wide receivers. And Paris Campbell seemed to be, more and more as the OTAs started going, seeming like he ended up dropping down the chain, and you just heard less and less about him. So he's definitely one that might be. I would say Deuce is loose. Deuce might be kicked loose sometime in the near future too, because it seems like with all of the running backs that we have, he's getting less and less reps. It was a great story, of course, because his dad worked for the organization and things, but we're only talking about 127 yards of total runs in his time of being here, and roster spots are very, very valuable. That's not to say that he doesn't get released at some point and get brought back on the practice squad, because again, Cowboys love stories and they love reclamation projects. Something else I heard today that was interesting was about Henry Ruggs. People make mistakes in life. You're fortunate if you make a mistake and it doesn't go bad. Henry Ruggs, who was driving 156 miles an hour, ended up losing control of his car and ended up hitting another woman and killing her. Of course, he's been in jail. He was released basically for, I guess, a field trip, you might as well say it was, where he got to try and be, basically tell a story and try and make amends for what happened. And he seemed like he had hat in hand and realizes how much he lost, which pales in comparison to the woman who lost her life. How you go from having everything, being a first-round drafted wide receiver, to being in jail because you did something stupid. Sad. Well, there we go. Justin Rogers no longer part of the Dallas Cowboys. And that's kind of, and I can't say that that Justin Rogers has gotten there the way some of the players, because defensive linemen, of course, nobody gives them any love except former other defensive linemen. But this is the sad part about, when we get to training camp and You get my Law Nation there and Vosh and everything else. Not just the top tier players, the lower tier players, the stories. You get to know those guys on an in-depth basis where you're rooting for them. And come training camp, afterwards, you start losing a lot of these guys. And it kind of hurts a bit. So, yeah. All right. Have a good one, people. Peace.